The Totonac, one of the most important cultures of Mesoamerica, having a strong army that helped Cortés defeat the Aztecs, spamming 3 large cities and holding strong cultural impact on the other civilizations of Mesoamerica. So who are they, and what happened to them? Well, little is known of how they came to be. We only know that they came from the Huastec court and that they had a strong cultural impact from the Olmecs. The Totonac had one of the largest empires in Mesoamerica, spanning what is today Puebla and Veracruz. And they also spread from the Sierra Madre all the way to the coast. It is commonly theorized that the word Totonac actually refers to the 3 hearts or 3 main cities of the civilization, those being El Tajín, Pamplona, and Zempoala. Each of these 3 served as hubs for politics and commerce, with each being large enough to host in the millions of civilians. Now, the only thing that allowed them to grow to such extent was the fact that they had very fertile land on their hands, which permitted them to get a large surplus of food. It is a well-established fact that most civilizations in Mesoamerica base their diet around corn, but the Totonac are an exception to this rule. Their diet was mostly based of tropical fruits, with corn being the second most important part of their meals. Now, the third most important part of their meals was fish and other seafoods. This is because their diet was mainly composed of carbohydrates and had very little protein in it. The reason for this is rather simple. Though they had very fertile land, there wasn't much game overall around the area, with the only source of protein that was readily available being all the fish and seafood that lived on the coast. Now, the Totonac were able to breed things like dogs and turkey in order to receive a better protein, but even so, the simplest way to get protein still remained being fishing, due to the fact that we have found shark teeth in certain staffs that were used for ceremonies. Now, the reason why this is important is because sharks mainly live at the high seas, which would mean that in order for the Totonac to get these teeth, they would have had to sail on boats to kill them, which would mean that they would have needed to have strong enough boats to be able to carry a shark from the high seas and back. This tells us that the Totonac had very high levels of technology and intelligence, though whether they had boats or not is something that is still debated today, because we do not have enough evidence that they did have boats. No boats have been found, and there are no walls or inscriptions which ever state that the Totonac ever had boats. But the teeth speak a lot of their navigation capabilities. The other invention of the Totonac that is highly disputed is the wheel. It is commonly accepted that Mesoamerican civilizations never were to develop the wheel, but some historians argue that the Totonac managed to develop such a wheel due to it being found in certain toys. It is possible that the wheel was used for other tools such as wheelbarrows and construction devices, but this theory should be taken with a grain of salt, as so far no evidences of a highly developed wheel have ever been found. Now, very little is known about the Totonac social pyramid, but it is commonly theorized that at the top of this pyramid lied the emperor, below that priests and soldiers, and at the very bottom, the common people, such as farmers and hunters. Despite the military being so high up in the social pyramid, it wasn't used very often because the Totonac preferred using diplomatic solutions rather than violence, though this would not function, as they would be defeated by the Aztecs. After their defeat, the Aztecs demanded tribute every year. The tribute consisted of surpluses of food and children who were going to be brought into slavery. Now, the Totonac would comply with this request for the following next hundreds of years. That was until Cortés arrived at the Americas. Once Cortés arrived, the Totonac received them with high hospitality. It is said that before leaving, Cortés asked the Totonac on how he could compensate for the levels of hospitality that he had received, for which the Totonac response was to start complaining about the Aztec. So Cortés and the Totonac struck a deal. They would unite their forces and attempt to destroy the Aztec Empire, for which the Totonac would comply, sending 1,300 troops together with the 500 Spanish troops in order to destroy the Aztec capital of Tenochtitlan. The attack was a success, and the Aztec Empire would be destroyed. setting the Spanish crown as the main ruler of Mesoamerica. The Totonac Empire was quickly admitted into the reign of the Spanish crown as an ally, which saved them from much of the cruelty and violence that the Spaniards would impose on all the other civilizations in the Americas. This did not exempt them from the cruelty completely, though. The Spanish would still try and succeed to impose Catholicism in all of the civilization, with that being the main reason of why today we do not understand the Totonacs' original religion. They would also set new taxes and political system on the people of the Totonac, and though their new system of haciendas proved so labor-intensive that very quickly the population started to decrease. Due to epidemics and the decreasing population, all three of the large cities would eventually go abandoned. Now, despite this, the Spanish were never truly interested in the Totonac Empire to begin with, due to the fact that they had no rare metals such as gold, silver, or iron which they could get there. So it had very little profitability due to just how hard and unprofitable it would have been for the Spaniards to actually reach the civilizations on the Sierra Madre. They were hardly affected by the new Spanish rule. Even so, their power, influence, and population also dwindled. Not much is known of the Totonac civilization after the Spaniards arrived and started to impose their new systems. This is mainly due to lack of care from the people and the government to actually record their history during these times, but it is theorized that their numbers continue to dwindle. But even with their dwindling numbers, this culture still remains strong and persevered through the years. With the Totonac having survived the Spaniards, all of the Mexican civil wars, and capitalism. In the 1940s, a census was taken asking how many people spoke Totonac or any variation of their language. It was found out that around 100,000 people of the Mexican population still spoke the language. Today, 80 years later, that number has more than doubled, with the language now having over 200,000 speakers. But the culture has suffered greatly. Most of the people now live near the coast or near the Sierra Madre, and most of their traditions are now lost to time, with their craftsmanship and religion being almost completely gone. Due to things like capitalism, the craftsmanship of these people has been largely threatened. In the 1940s, Petróleos Mexicanos, or Pemex as it is more commonly known, paved a few roads to get to the town in order to make it easier for them to find oil. This in turn made urbanization possible. So now Western goods such as food, clothes, and tools are being sold around the area. Now this is important because originally the Totonac produced all of their tools, clothes, and food, but now there is no longer any necessity to do so, meaning that the tradition of creating these objects is now being lost due to a lack of necessity to do these things. Now the Totonac Empire or civilization has always been divided between two main geographical groups: the people that lived in the Sierra Madre and the people that lived near the shore. The people that lived in the shore mainly focused on agriculture as they had great fertile soil. In the meantime, the people at the Sierra Madre mainly had to focus on being artisans as the terrain is not suitable for farming. Today, this division still exists. The people near the shore mainly focus on farming cash crops and maize, with the main cash crop being vanilla. The people of the Sierra Madre, on the other hand, only having a few suitable spots for farming. So the people there largely focus on wage jobs to get around. The Totonac civilization truly is impressive, as most civilizations do not manage to survive the conditions that the Totonac have been able to endure. And even so that a large portion of the Totonac technologies and cultures such as their religion have been erased with time, it is impressive that things such as their language are still around to this day, and are truly a sign and proof of the perseverance of these people to maintain their culture alive. And it is clear that the Totonac people are not going anywhere anytime soon.